don't know what happened. I had to come out of that. Brother Solomon, how you been though? How's your family?
I've been all right, my brother. No complaints. Thank Allah for another day. The way that the things are going right now in this country, I'm just grateful that we're alive, we're needed for something, and let's just use it wisely to educate ourselves, educate each other, and just come together as one family and just try to do the right thing, my brother, with the time that we've been given. There's nothing else to this human life. That's the conclusion I came to.
All right, well, I'm going to turn this over to you. You are now the host.
All right. Okay. Everything is good on your end. It's being live streamed. Everything is good.
We're live right now, sir.
All right, then let's do it. Okay. Okay, share screen. All right, let me know if you see this.
I got work office. Is that what you're showing?
Okay, let me see. Do you see my screen right now?
I see your screen right now.
And it says, do you see the Sufism presentation?
I do. You got like a couple of them. You got, I think, part 1 and part 2.
Okay, perfect. Okay. All right, so let's do the part 2. That's the one we're doing today.
Yep.
Okay. Present on this device. All right, let's see if this is good.
There you go.
All right, perfect. So everything is good to go. I can go for it.
You can move on, sir.
All right, thank you. So greetings and peace, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so honored and privileged to be back on for part 2 with Brother Tony Hawkins and the rest of the brothers to do an expansion on Islam, Sufism, and Freemasonry, basically to draw parallel comparisons between the philosophies and the religion and our fraternity's teachings. So I would like to begin this with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. And also as a disclaimer that on this presentation, I represent myself only. As Masons, we also have ruffians within the temple who like to take our words out of context and use it against us. So I have to make sure I put that disclaimer out there. And without further ado, I hope you enjoy this part 2 expansion. And I thank you for allowing me to be here. So now we focus on the Holy Kaaba in the East and Mecca. And the cornerstone of that house, not made with hands, was laid by Abraham and his son Ishmael. The cornerstone of the Kaaba is said to come from some people say it's a meteorite from heaven, and some people say it's a stone that fell from heaven. So that resembles that house that is not made with hands, not made by the hand of man. And that the Kaaba represents the perfect ashlar stone. The white and black colors of the colors of the Kaaba on the exterior represent the Masonic black and white tiles, the duality of what we live in, that not every day is going to be a good day. You have good times, bad times, good times. That's the nature of reality that we're dealing with right now. And that's what we're facing right now in our human existence. Inside of the Kaaba, you have the pillars and the altar. Just like how on the Masonic tracing board, you have strength, wisdom, and beauty. And on the between strength and wisdom, you see the Kaaba, the perfect ashlar stone, the bricks, and the cornerstone not made with hands. This was constructed by Abraham. And when Allah told Abraham, I have given you the tools, now make the house of God. And on this Kaaba, you go to the holy city of Mecca in the east, and you go through the rite of circumambulation. Just like in the lodge room when you're initiated, you have to go through the circular motions. In here, it's the same process where you go through the initiatic experience, and everyone's wearing the white cloth of the ihram. And in the ihram, everyone is equally divested of all metallic substances, meaning It doesn't matter if you're rich or you're poor, if you're white or you're black. This is what means by being on the level, that you're all there, the brotherhood of man under the fatherhood of God. When Malcolm X, al-Malik al-Shabazz, may he rest in peace, when he went to Mecca, this is what changed his life, that all of us can equally love Almighty God as a brotherhood of man and under the fatherhood of God. This is something that even the Masonic Brotherhood represents for those who truly follow it. Also, you see on the Masonic tracing board the three signs of God: the sun, the moon, and the eye of God, equivalent to the lights of Masonry, the sun, the moon, and the worshipful master. And there's a hadith in Islam that says that the three signs of God is the sun, al-Shams in Arabic. There's even a chapter in the Quran, the moon, the crescent and the moon, and even that same symbol is used in the Demolay insignia. And you have the eye of God, which one of the 99 names of Allah is al-Basir, that he is always watching you. No matter where you go, Allah is always watching you. And that is what signifies that. Moving on.
Brother
Now
Stellan,
yes,
excuse me,
sir.
if you can take my picture down, I don't know if you can or can't.
How's it now?
Well, I see myself up, but there you go. That's beautiful right there.
Better?
Yes, sir.
All right. So moving on, my brothers. Now we focus on the initiation rites among the dervishes. So now in Sufism, a lot of these teachings that what we see the modern European Freemasonry, they got this from the Sufis of North Africa and the Middle East. And that includes our African brothers over there who were part of these different initiatic rites. And now we focus on the initiatic rites among dervishes, which existed before Freemasonry. So the candidate must be recommended by two members of the order who can vouch his character to the sheikh or the worshipful master. Once recommended, the initiate must respect all brethren equally despite his worldly rank or title. The work entails of chanting the names of Allah, God, memorizing portions of the Quran, helping with public services, and period of seclusion and fasting. This is also during the probationary period between the recommendation and the initiation. The brother must promise to be faithful to his oath, protect and guard the secrets of which are entrusted to him, and live his life in obedience to the will of God. So when you join certain Sufi rites or certain Sufi orders, right then and there, they start testing your characters in various scenarios. You'll have certain charities that you'll be involved in, just like Masonic fundraisers and charities that are there. You'll be there helping your community, serving the community. You'll be there learning the work, like in the lodge, you have to learn the work and memorize the ritual. Same in Sufi initiatic rites, you'll have to memorize certain portions of the Quran, and then they will test you, make sure you're proficient before they allow you to move on to the next degree. And it's the aspect of seeing if you have that disciplinary measure within you. Some Sufi orders, their probationary periods are like 90 days between each degree. Some are like 100 days where they test you, they make sure you know the knowledge, you know the work, and you're proving yourself as a good and worthy fellow. And that's when you're allowed to move on. And this is something that we see in the Masonic aspect as well. Now we see the degrees of the Knights Templar and the Ismaili Islamic assassins who are under Hassan Saba, the old man of the mountain. So you have to keep in mind when the Knights Templars were in the Middle East, they had studied with the Moorish Sufis, the Moors, the Sufis, and all of the brethren that were there in North Africa and what we know as the so-called Middle East. You have to remember that was all Africa at one point before the colonizers came up with that term, the Middle East. So now we start with the ranks of the assassins. So they had the Grand Master or the Prince of the Mountain, which is the old man of the mountain. You have the Dais al-Kabir or the three great viceroys under him, the Dais or provincial masters, the Rafiqs and chaplains, the Lazik, the military body, the Fadain or the death devoted, the Batini or the secret brethren affiliates. The Knights Templar, they also had similar degrees and ranks. The Grand Master, the three Grand Priors, the provincial prior, the chaplains, the knights, the esquires, the serving brethren, the donato, obligati, and the affiliati. So when the Knights Templar were in the, so-called Middle East, they studied under African Sufis and Ismaili Sufis and the assassins. And they took that knowledge back to Europe with them. As you see, even their degree system at that time, how similarly it was modeled after each other. And you see that today, even in the Assassin's Creed video games, even though it's a little fictitious in its presentation, you see that there were always these two opposing forces. At times they worked with each other, at times they opposed each other. And that influence, as we see right now with the way things are going in the world, some things never really do change, and it's still out there. Now we see the Arabization of the Knights Templar, or better yet, the Islamic nature of the Knights Templar. So when they were persecuted on Friday, which is a holy day for Islam. The charges against them accused them of being crypto-Muslim with the worshiping of Baphomet, which if you look at the way they spelled certain words in that old English at that time, that was a bastardization of Muhammad or Muhammad.
Hold that thought for a second.
Yes.
You're going to have to repeat that because a lot of people have a misnomer in regards to the Baphomet.
Yeah, that's right. So the Baphomet basically signifies the inclusion of the animalistic nature of man, feminine, masculine, to solve and dissolve. And that's what the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught the followers of Islam, that this is what you have to do to become part of God, and to basically those occult teachings that were given in Islam. So the charges against them accused them of being crypto-Muslim with worshiping of Baphomet, which basically they were saying that they were worshiping Muhammad in secret, and denial of Christ. They were persecuted on a Friday, which is a holy day for Islam. And even in Turkey in the 1950s, when they were excavating in one of the Templar churches in Turkey, at that time known as Anatolia, they had found a cross with the image of Muhammad on it. And they removed it quickly from the news, like, oh, we don't want anybody finding this out. Even if you Google it now, you won't find it. But if you go to Turkey and ask the Masonic brothers there, hey, I heard about in 1950s, they found this old Templar church here in Turkey, and they found this cross with the image of Muhammad. They'll tell you. So they made treaties in the Holy Land with the Muslims, contrary to French interest, and betraying Frankish armies to Muslims during periods of conflicts. Robert of St. Albans, an English Knight Templar who converted to Islam and married Saladin's niece. In the 1270s, the Templar commander in Sidon, Matthew Savage, also spelled Sermaj, and the Mamluk ruler of Egypt, Sultan Baybars, were blood brothers. Hugo de Pins, excuse my French, the co-founder and first Grand Master, was a descendant of Moorish Sufis. And Hugo de Pins was also connected to the Paganis. And if you look at the Pagani family crest in Italy, you'll see that it has the head of 3 Moors on there. So the Moors were in Italy, they were in Spain, they were co-founded. Their first Grand Master was a Moorish Sufi, and all of it's interconnected. So, the way that I say it, the deeper you dig, the darker it gets.
Go ahead, brother.
So now we move on to the Masonic meeting in a mosque. So the Al-Aqsa Temple, which is the second holiest site in Islam next to the Kaaba in the east, this is where King Solomon's temple is, the Temple Mount, and also where the Prophet Muhammad ascended during his ascension. Now, this also, you can look this up. This was on the London Evening News, September 3rd, 1918, that Freemasons in Palestine, and look, you have the London Evening News, 1918, before this creation of Israel in 1948, referring to that land as Palestine. So Freemasons in Palestine have held a Masonic meeting on the historic site of King Solomon's Temple, where Freemasonry is supposed to have originated about 1000 BC. This meeting was organized by the members of the New Zealand Expeditionary Force in Palestine. The Mosque of Omar being on the site of the temple, the New Zealanders approached the Great Sheikh in charge of the mosque for permission. Then occurred an incident showing up the universality of the Masonic order. The Sheikh listened to what the strangers had to say, and then to their amazement, he asked if there were any Masons among them. The rest was easy. He declared himself a Mason, and at the meeting, he acted as one of the guards of the lodge.
Mm.
The place within the mosque where the meeting was held is known as the Cave of the Rock of the Dome, and is believed to have been the Holy of Holies of the old temple. As it is today, the Mosque of Omar, soldiers of all ranks were present. And after a lodge had been duly constituted and opened, resolutions were passed conveying fraternal greetings and good wishes to the various grand lodges, to the lodges in New Zealand, and the brethren on service in France. So one of the oldest, basically the Temple Mount, the King Solomon's Temple, and a holy site in Islam. There's a Masonic lodge meeting that has taken place in here. So that's another parallel comparison that I wanted to draw in this presentation. Now we have the Auld Lang Syne, which comes from Robert Burns in the Masonic tradition. And this is equivalent to Sufi Zikr circles. Now, many Masonic lodges you go to, depending on the jurisdiction, what they do is they form a circular bond of brotherhood in a circular fashion, and everyone sings odes and hymns and basically gives glory to the grand architect of the universe and to their brotherhood. And Sufism is known as the Zikr circles, where all of the brothers come hand in a circular motion, and they chant the names of Allah. And you look at a Sufi lodge, you see the same. You see the black and white tiles. You see the brethren dressed in white, equivalent to the lambskin of the master mason, the innocence of the white lambskin. So it's similar nature, and all of it predates Freemasonry. Now we have al-Fatwa, the Islamic knighthood and mentoring from youth. Fatwa is the way of the Fatah. In Arabic, Fatah literally means a handsome, brave youth. After the enlightenment of Islam, following the use of the word in the Holy Quran, Fatah, plural, fityan, came to mean the ideal noble and perfect man whose hospitality and generosity would extend until he had nothing left for himself, a man who would give all, including his life, for the sake of his friends. According to the Sufis, Fatwa is a code of honorable conduct that follows the example of the prophets, saints, sages, and the intimate friends and lovers of Allah, taught starting from a young age, taught all arts and sciences, etc. In Freemasonry, you could see this example that this is taught in Demolay, youth groups, and all other Masonic groups. So you train your children and your youth, which is going to be your future, on how to be leaders and warriors. And especially now in communities of color, we have to take this initiative where you have to have these hard conversations and sit down with your sons and daughters and tell them that sometimes, because of who you look like, you might not be treated as a full human being. So teach them the conduct of chivalry, self-defense, how to recognize danger and how to act upon it, how to defend yourself and others, how to be in the pursuit of knowledge. So being a warrior is not only having the physical skills to defend yourself, but also knowing the arts and sciences, just like how in Freemasonry, you have this aspect of knighthood and chivalry, starting from a young age. So in Sufism, they have al-Fatwa, while in Freemasonry, they have these different groups like Demolay and other youth groups, which train their youth to be gentlemen. Now we have the importance of free thinking and internal self-growth, which is a Sufi and Masonic comparison. In Freemasonry, you're taught to be a free thinker, that it's your journey, you have to walk it alone, and no one can force you to believe anything. So in Sufism, we have the Fatimiyya Sufi order, and one of the commandments of the Fatimiyya Sufi order, being number 3, quote, always on the path of the great work of life to death, to palingenetic resurrection, rely upon what thine own inner light and what the truth within tells thee, and not what thy neighbor, preacher, rabbi, priest, minister, mullah, sheikh, guru, clairvoyant, astrologer, institution, corporation, superior, bureaucrat, politician, or popular consensus insist or demands that ye think and do. Therefore, the only obedience due on the path of the great work of the life to death, to palingenetic resurrection, is obedience to that voice of truth, emanating forth when truly unveiled from within the essential light of thine own inner being, or to that living, vertical embodification of the proof of that truth in the outer world and nothing else. So listen most intently to that mighty voice of truth. And see, that's the thing right now in the society that we're in. Everybody's quick to jump on the bandwagon or blindly follow somebody. So you don't have to listen to me. You don't have to listen to anybody. Listen to that voice within you. And even what Noble Drew Ali says, if you want to find Allah, Allah is in your heart. You have to find that calling within yourself. So right now, so many people are being led astray by those that don't have good intentions. And I've seen that in religious institutions too, those that are kind of fleecing the flock and not really benefiting the people that are under them. So both Sufi and Masonic's teachings are telling you that take knowledge from wherever it may come, but at the end, you got to follow what feels right for you. That is what is being a true free man and a true Freemason is about. Now we have the Zahir, the exoteric outer, and the Batin, esoteric inner. And these are the names of Allah as well, where Zahir means the outside and Batin means the inside. Zahir refers to the outer dimensions of the Islamic faith and what the outsider sees initially, such as the community prayers, mosques, charities, basic teachings. In Freemasonry, this can be seen as the lodge community events, pancake breakfast, charities, fish fries, and other outreach programs that the community comes to know the people as. Batin refers to the inner spiritual dimensions and what only the true initiate of the heart will have access to. The eye of providence knows who to select. In Sufism, the inner mysteries are revealed by the divine for those worthy. In Freemasonry, this can extend to special invitation-only esoteric bodies that one cannot petition or apply for. You have to be seen as worthy and chosen. And I have seen that even in your regular recognized Freemasonry. You could be a Master Mason in good standing. Everything is good to go. You're paying your dues. You're attending everything. But there are certain doors that will remain closed to you. So that's something that you cannot ask for, you cannot petition for, you cannot apply for. They have to choose you. And that's exactly what it is, that even in the inner sanctums of Freemasonry, you have to be seen as worthy. So the real initiation really happens from the heart. While you have those, even in the regular recognized world, that their journey goes to Master Mason, and majority of them, it stops right there, right? That just become dues paying members and enjoy the benefits of their membership, become social club Masons, and they don't want to extend anything beyond that. Well,
I have a question. I know you're
Yes,
on a
sir.
roll, but before I forget, the question is how do, and pardon me if I'm interrupting you at a wrong time too, but
No, of course not.
the question is how do Sufi Freemasonry view the OES, or a sister of the order?
Oh, okay. So in Sufism, you also have like in the Masonic Brotherhood, we have our brothers with their male lodges, and you have the sisters of the Order of the Eastern Star. So in Sufism, you also have the male lodges, and also you have the female lodges, which are led by a female sheikh, known as a sheikha. So they have separate but equal institutions. And they don't have this issue like we see in the Western world in Freemasonry, where some people have a problem with women. So both are given equal regard, because if you look at the words Bismillah Rahman Rahim, Rahman is feminine and the Rahim is masculine. So God cannot become one unless the man and the woman do not come together. And in Islam, if a man does not marry a woman or vice versa, they're considered that they have not completed their faith. So both have to become the one. And that's exemplified in movies like The Matrix and other movies that you see, even in the Baphomet, which is just a representation of the Prophet Muhammad, that the masculine and feminine have to come together within yourself and in the real life. So right now we're living in a society where men and women are discouraged from being with each other, especially in non-white communities. The families are being targeted on purpose not to come together. So I encourage my brothers and sisters, please reignite that love, reignite those families, reignite that bond that made you who you are for the sake of the Most High living God. So right now, what we're seeing with the Zahir and Batin is that you'll have those that'll get their degrees and they go away. So they're only going to know what Freemasonry is from the outside, while those that stay consistent on the path as time goes on, Allah will continue to remove the veils from their heart, and they'll be initiated into the inner mysteries. So now we move on to the Salik, the traveling man. So in Sufism, the word Salik in Arabic is a follower of Sufism from the verb salaka, which means to travel or follow, related to suluk, pathway. Suluk here specifically refers to a spiritual path. Example, the combination of the two paths that can be followed in religion, the exoteric path or the Sharia, or the esoteric path or the Hakika to find God. In Freemasonry, one who is a traveling man represents a worthy brother on his journey towards the east from darkness to true Masonic light. Masons refer to each other as traveling men, while in Sufism, those that are traveling men are referred to as saliks. So basically, he's telling you that this human life, you come out of your mother's womb with nothing. You go through the motions. They tell you what your name is, what your religion is, what your identity is. You grow up embracing those identities. And then you're basically here as a spiritual school. Most people say, what am I doing stuck in this open air prison planet where every day there's suffering, not only in America, but all over the world. People feel stuck. They feel like they're in a prison. But the path of the Salik or the traveling man teaches you, you came out of your mother's womb, you go through, you grow up, you go through the school system, you eventually settle down, have your own family, you work, you have your own responsibilities. And then one day your life comes to an end. And when you go back into the ground, it's basically you're here in a spiritual school. You're here to experience and learn and grow and to help each other. And that's what you take with you. So that's what being a traveling man is about. You got to travel light, and that includes your own life as well. Now we move on to Aleister Crowley as a Sufi initiate and Freemason.
Time out. Time out. Wait a minute. Hold on. For real.
Yeah, Aleister Crowley was initiated in Egypt by a Sufi sheikh. So
we're gonna touch on. I'm gonna let you finish, and then we're gonna do the question thing, because I don't really want to interrupt you, but some stuff you saying, bro, it causes me to pause. But go right ahead.
Oh yeah, definitely, my brother. I'll stay with you for the Q&A right after I finish this. Okay. So with Crowley, you have Aleph Lam Mim means, and this is one of the names of Allah. Aleph means I am, Lam, an abbreviation of Allah. Mim, an abbreviation of Al-Alim, or the knowing. So means I am Allah, the knowing. Crowley was initiated in 1904 by a Sufi sheikh in Egypt, which he details in his book, The Confessions, from the early 1900s. Crowley recited Surah Al-Ikhlas, Declaration of God, from the Quran continuously 111 times without any break consecutively. Afterwards is when he opens the inner gateway and is inspired by Lam, Allah, to write the book of law. And this is Crowley's Lam, what they refer to. Thelemites have Islamic influences and respect Islam as one, as much as did their founder, who was also a Freemason from the British background. So most people do not know this about Crowley and why his followers respect Islam. And even if you read the book of the law and compare it to the Quran, you're going to see so many references and similarities. So Surah Al-Ikhlas is from the Holy Quran, which is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad, wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. And it tells you about the unity and the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the grand architect of the universe. So that's exactly what it is. So basically, I'm giving you that information on how Crowley was able to unlock that inner gateway and acquired that wisdom to write the book of the law. He recited Surah Al-Ikhlas 111 times consecutively. And here we see him in his Sufi attire, which is also a hidden picture. Now we move on to Insan al-Kamil, the perfect man. You have divinity within you. And if you look at the Insan al-Kamil, my brothers, you look at the way he's positioned himself without giving anything away, yes. For a Mason, that looks very familiar.
Very.
So the Insan al-Kamil, you see in Arabic, the word of Allah is written inside of his body. So it's telling you, you're looking for Allah over here, over there, up there. Allah is within you the whole time. You got to find that within yourselves. And this is something our brothers of the 5% community also teach their followers, is that you are that divinity in the flesh. We created mankind in our image and in our likeness. So insan al-kamil, to become the perfect man, you have to each day chip away at the rough ashlar of your stone, of your physical temple. You are the temple until you become perfect and you become one with Allah. And becoming the insan al-kamil, meaning you have to be on that path of initiation, whether it's Freemasonry, the Order of the Eastern Star, Sufism, Moorish Science, 5%, whatever you're doing, as long as it's helping you become a better person, you're not hurting anybody, and you're learning and growing every day, then you're on that path of Insan al-Kamil. And again, this predates Freemasonry and the 1717 narrative.
Okay.
And for those that are Masons, just look at Insan al-Kamil from Sufism and you can see the similarity. Now we have the aspect, my brothers, on the Sufi and Masonic importance of free will and accord. You get out what you put in. In Islam, you have the aspect of the Holy Quran states, there shall be no compulsion in matters of faith. And that man will have nothing but what he strives for, meaning Allah has given you this world. He has given you a brotherhood. He has given you the whole humanity and the world and its resources. If you're not willing to go out there and do the work, nothing's going to be put in your hands. So you got to do the work in terms of making a living, your Masonic studies and initiation, even what Brother Tony says, that I'll help your study, but I'm not your study guide. So meaning you have to take that initiatic step on your own. Also, the Quran states that there is no evidence to indicate that each man's life is preordained, and that he has no choice or option in choosing between good and bad, right and wrong. The Holy Quran categorically rejects the concept of compulsion and clearly states that every human being is free to choose between good and evil. Just like in the Masonic path, you have the white lodge and the black lodge, the white tiles, the black tiles. And you have the concept of free will and accord in Freemasonry. You can't force anybody to do anything. Everyone, whether it's being involved in a lodge, becoming an officer, learning the work, being initiated, it's all of your own free will and accord. So in the Sufi Islamic perspective, that's the same. You want to be a Mason, you have to ask with your free will. You want to participate, become an active member of the lodge, no one's going to force you. So it's all you. You have to take that initiative on how you want to handle your life. Now we move on to Christian Rosicrucianism and Sufism. And of course, Rosicrucianism is tied in with the Sufism and Freemasonry as well. So Rosicrucianism was initiated by the Iquan al-Safa, who were known as the Brethren of Purity. And if you look at the symbol of the rose, it's also in Sufism, which predates Rosicrucianism. So Christian Rosicrucianism was initiated by the Iquan al-Safa in North Africa in Morocco. And the Qadiriya Sufi orders were already using the symbol of the rose. And they had referred to their sheikh in Baghdad, Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, as the rose of Baghdad. And the rose represents the mystical union with God. And that's why they're always using the symbol of the rose, because it represents love and mysticism and divine union with their beloved, which is Almighty God. So that also is a similar comparison that I wanted to draw. Now, my brothers, there are the verses of the Quran pertaining to each degree of craft masonry. So most people would say, when a Muslim brother comes in my lodge, what exact verse of the Holy Quran or the volume of the sacred law pertaining to each degree should I open that volume of sacred law to? So now I'll give you verses that are relevant to each degree. The inner apprentice, you have darkness to light. And if you look at chapter 2, verse 257 of the Quran, it tells you Allah is the guardian and protector of the believers. He brings them out of darkness and into the light. And what are you taught in the inner apprentice degree? Do not fear any danger and walk your path, because Allah is with you. God is with you. You're coming from darkness to light. Then you have the fellow craft, the knowledge of the arts and sciences. Chapter 58, verse 11 of the Holy Quran. You who believe, if you are told to make room for one another in your meetings, then do so, and God will make room for you. And if you are told to rise up, like you rise up in the meetings, do so. God will raise up by many degrees those of you who believe and those who have been given knowledge. He is fully aware of what you do. And him being fully aware of what you do, when you're in the fellowcraft degree, you're given the middle chamber reflection and the lecture telling you the glory of God and how God is all seeing and all knowing, and how also you're taught to be a lover of the arts and the sciences and the 7 liberal arts. So moving on to the Master Mason, there's chapter 21, verse 35. Every soul will taste death. We test you with good and bad as a trial. Then unto us you will all be returned, the memento mori. So in Freemasonry, in the 3rd degree, you're taught to live respected and died regretted. And the aspect of resurrection, that one day you're going to have to be in front of Allah and give your answers. What kind of life did you lead? What kind of actions did you commit while you were here on this earth? And all that in between. And telling you that one day you will die. So it's giving you that reminder, just like how the Master Mason degree does. Now we have, my brothers, the al-Kashaf, the unveiling, just like how in the Royal Arch, for those that have seen that. The stage that the Sufi gets to when he removes the veils and knows the glory and holiness of God. The Sufi's journey is at a conclusion when he comes to this gnosis and unity with his beloved. The Sufi who reaches this stage becomes clairvoyant and one with spirit. In the Royal Arch, you also see that your true journey as a Master Mason continues beyond craft masonry or the Blue Lodge masonry. You see the holiness of the Lord and the removal of veils as you go from raised to exalted. And even when you become a Master Mason, you are told that you've been given a substitute and the journey goes on. So when you go from raised to exalted, you come to know the true glory of God, and those veils get removed before your eyes. And in Sufism, those who reach that spiritual stage, they become psychic to a certain extent. They become clairvoyant, and they become highly spiritually and intuitive individuals, because they get to know the gloriness and holiness of the Lord, just like how it's exemplified in the Royal Arch when you go from raised to exalted. Now we have the aspect of the tasawwuf in Sufism, the wearers of wool and the people of the bench. The Sufis are wearers of wool, suf, that exemplify the prophets and teachers of purity. The wool is also worn by the Knights Templar on top of their hats, as the Grand Master of the first, or the grandfather of the first Grand Master, Hugo de Pans, excuse my French if I'm not saying his name correctly, was a Moorish Sufi who initiated him in the mysteries. And if you look at the Pagani family crest of Italy, you'll see the heads of the 3 dark Moors that are on that family crest, which is also tied in with Hugo de Pans and the Moors. They are known as the people of the bench that were initiated into inner Islam by the Prophet Muhammad. And it's similar to Mark 4:11, where Christ says that those of you that have been taught in the exterior mysteries, while those that have been initiated in the inner mysteries will know what's up, while those on the outside will know only the parables. So you have to follow tasawwuf, which means good character and being aware of self and Allah. Everything is about the heart and purification of self. The true initiation truly happens from the heart. If you're not pure from your heart, if you're not a pure and true individual, you could be a 33rd degree, you could be a past master, past grand master. Allah will still keep you in the darkness, regardless of what your worldly title is. So it's about being truly initiated from the heart for you to truly get it, what it's all about in terms of brotherhood, love, unity, and seeing the world for what it is before your eyes. Now we have the aspects, my brothers, of the 3 stages, the degrees. First stage being fighting the ego and coming to light, the hakikat. Second being the tariqat, to unite with the grand architect of the universe. The third stage, marifa, the act of know thyself and know thy Lord. That's when you come to full gnosis. You have the 4 worlds, the 4 realms of knowledge, and the 4 veils. The first is matter, earth, water, air, fire, and ether, the aspect of knowing God and the world. Then this is the 3D world that we're operating in right now. The second are the spiritual beings, the second realm, jinns, angels, heaven and hell, cause and effect. So right now, if the world is going through chaos, that means the heavens are at war with each other right now too, because it's as above, so below. Whatever happens up there is happening down here. And also, most people are looking for aliens over here, over there. This stage is teaching you that angels and jinns walk amongst you, good ones and bad ones, that are there to mess with you, that are there to test and try you, that are there to help you. So you don't need to look over to Mars or Saturn. Everything is right here walking amongst you. And that's what it's telling you, that everything, even if it looks human, you got to be on your toes at all times. You're taught to be cautious as a Mason and as a Sufi, because everything is there to test you and try you, to see if you are a man of good, honorable conduct, and if you're a man of your word, like you said you would be. So the third realm is the source of the lost world, or the lost word, excuse me, the hidden tablet, the knowledge of spirit. And only the high-ranking angels like Gabriel and others can go to this realm with the permission of Allah. And the fourth realm is the realm of the grand architect of the universe, pure essence. God is the only reality. So the Sufis tell you that there's the concept of Wadat al-Wujud in Sufism, and they tell you that there's only one true being in existence, that's the Alpha and Omega, that has no beginning and has no end, which is Allah. And everything that's existing right now, whether it's man, animals, the trees, plants, the universe, the solar system, the sun and the moon, everything is a projection of that one true being experiencing itself through unlimited forms. So myself, Brother Tony, all the brothers that are here, Brother Vaughn, everybody that's listening to us, we're all a projection of that one unity and that one being that's trying to understand itself through itself. And it's a hidden treasure that wants to be known, which is in your heart. Again, everybody's looking outside, but nobody's looking inside to a place where they least expect. Now, my brothers, we have the three stages of realization, which is Iman, Islam, and Ihsan. The first being Iman, equivalent to the degrees: belief, faith, secrecy, and full trust in the grand architect of the universe, the entered apprentice degree, where you're taught to trust God and not fear any danger. The second is the Islam, submission, obedience, knowledge, and practice, to reflect on your growth and continue the pursuit of knowledge, fellowcraft. Ihsan, a righteous, upright character and living a good life with the time you have been granted, the Master Mason, where you have to die before you die, and you have to give up this world and not be attached to it. All three stages, my brothers, must be honored fully, or you are just following mere rituals without any meaning and inevitably leading to hypocrisy. You must practice what you preach. Otherwise, it's all meaningless and wasted effort. There is a difference between a learning phase and an application phase of knowledge. Also, you need a guide and a mentor, no egoism or individualism. So in Western society, you have this concept of individualism where they tell you, oh, just worry about yourself. You don't have to worry about others. And that's why these people are in the condition that they are. True Eastern light of Africa and the Near East and the Moorish Sufis and all the knowledge that comes from those lands tells you that we're all walking hand in hand with each other. So even with me, if I want to join a Masonic lodge, I cannot join unless I am deemed worthy by my peers. And I need a guide, I need a mentor. I can't just go in there by myself or be initiated by myself. There's a whole collective group effort that goes into that work. And it tells you we must be there to walk with each other hand in hand. And why are people suffering in America mentally right now so much? Because they just tell you, yo, just worry about yourself. Who cares? Don't worry about the other person. That's not how we are. As human beings, we're taught to be a brotherhood. We're taught to love each other. Love thy neighbor as you love thyself. And that's why people here are suffering, because that's not who we're originally supposed to be. And that's why we need to uplift each other. And the lessons that we're learning in the craft, whether you're at work, you're in your neighborhood, you're with your family, there's a learning phase and there's an application phase where you have to apply that knowledge in practicality. Now, my brothers, we move on to the Prophet Muhammad, who many people do not know was a widow's son. The Prophet Muhammad lost his father at a young age and was raised by his mother, a widow, till the age of 6. He married Khadija, the widow, at age 25, his first wife. He said, I have come to perfect the character of mankind, established religious and racial freedom with his decrees, dealing of Hazrat Bilal, who was an African slave being persecuted by the Arabs, and he freed Hazrat Bilal. And Hazrat Bilal, a black man, was the first to make the Islamic call to prayer on top of the Kaaba. Covenant with the monks of St. Catherine Monastery and the Constitution of Medina, which gave rights to Jews and Christians who were persecuted by the pagan Arab tribes. He instructed mankind to become one ummah community and be on the level, instructed to take care of widows and orphans from the Bukhari and Muslim hadiths. So the Prophet Muhammad, even in Islam, peace be upon him, he came to teach mankind that become one being, become one ummah. And by becoming one ummah, it doesn't matter what your race or religion or background is. You got to be brothers and sisters on the level. Help your widows and orphans, help the poor, perfect your character. And the same thing we see in Masonry. So now we see the all-seeing, the grand architect of the universe, the 99 names of Allah. The 100th name is missing. And one of the names of Allah is Al-Basir, the all-seeing. And he is aware of the deeds done in darkness. There's a story from a Sufi sheikh, and he had instructed 3 of his students that I want you to take this chicken and go kill it in a place where nobody will see you. The first student took it to his house and killed the chicken. The second took it to the jungle and did it. The third student brought the chicken back to the sheikh. And the sheikh asked him, what did you do? He said, I took it to my home. Allah was watching me. I went to the jungle. Allah was watching me. I went to the basement of my home where nobody could see me, but Allah was still watching me. So that is what even the Masonic Brotherhood is teaching you, that the eye of the grand architect of the universe, the all-seeing eye, is always watching you at all times. So at all times, you must be an upright man, exhibiting yourself of a man of a high moral character and virtue. You don't just do that for lodge night, just to have that, but you got to exemplify that at all times, because one day you got to pay a price and answer for your actions. So now we have the brethren of the white cloth, equally divested and on the level, ihram, which in the Arabic word ihram phonetically comes to Hiram. So when you go to Mecca in Saudi Arabia and you make the pilgrimage of the Hajj like Malcolm did, you go there and you see everyone's equally divested. They're wearing the white cloth of innocence, equivalent to the lambskin of a master mason, and everyone's on the level. It doesn't matter what your race, religion, or background is. Everyone is equal and on the level, and they're equally divested, and that's all you're wearing is that white cloth. This white cloth is also reminding you of death. So the ihram is not only teaching you to be on the level and be equals, but it's also telling you that on the day you die, this is how you're going to be buried. So we have the concept, if you go to a Masonic lodge and you see, you lay your eyes on the altar, you'll see that all volumes of sacred laws are there being given their due respect. Even if you go to the House of the Temple in Washington, D.C., you'll find the same similar eyesight. And the Holy Quran teaches you that in chapter 2, verse 62, that those who believe in the Quran and those who follow the Jewish scriptures and the Christians and the Sabians, any who believe in Allah and the last day and work righteousness shall have their reward with their Lord. On them shall be no fear, nor shall they grieve. So it's telling you no matter what path you follow, as long as you're doing the right thing and not hurting anybody, then you're going to be all right. Same thing you see in Freemasonry. As long as you believe in a supreme being and you do the right thing, you'll be all right. And also in Surah 49, verse 10, the believers are but one brotherhood. So make peace between your two brothers and be mindful of God so that you may be given mercy. This is equivalent of Psalms 133 in the Holy Bible that many Masons like to use. Behold, how good it is for brethren to dwell in unity. And also the aspect of everyone being equal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my brothers, we go to the aspect of the cable tow of unity and charity, helping each other if within your capability to do so. The Holy Quran, Surah 3, verse 103, chapter 3, 103, tells you, hold fast together to the cable of Allah, God, and be not divided. Remember the blessings that Allah bestowed upon you. You were once enemies, then he brought your hearts together so that through his blessing you became brothers. And that tells you, you go to a Masonic lodge, you'll see Masons of all backgrounds coming together And in a normal circumstances, that would never happen. And it teaches you Masonry unites men of every country and of every religion and conciliates true friendship among those who might otherwise have remained at a perpetual distance. That's because we're all holding to the cable of God, and we're told to not fear any danger. And that's the beauty of the cable toe, that if you can help somebody, help them without any hesitation. Now, my brothers, we focus on proper vetting, recommendation, and mentoring, which is the tarbiyah, the prayer of petition. So in Sufism, you have to truly be about it for you to gain anything. Proper recommendation of the seeker is needed, or the sheikh, worshipful master, and proposer, recommender have to deal with spiritual consequences from God. The seeker must be of a pure heart, intent, and soul. Once initiated, the seeker must be carefully mentored and counseled, quality over quantity. Uplift the seeker's heart so he could do for others. So on the bottom left, you'll see the sheikh, or the worshipful master, mentoring and guiding his brethren, while on the right, you see the worshipful master of Freemasonry doing the same for an initiated brother. And you must be very careful, because the prayer of the petition, it's not just a piece of paper or an application. That's a prayer for you to be accepted in the brotherhood of man under the fatherhood of God. You got to look at the words that are being used, because words are spells. So what happens if a brother messes up in the craft? What's the first thing that they find out? Or who was the person that recommended him? So that's what it comes down to. And in Sufism, you have to be truly be about it for your recommender or the sheikh to take you seriously, because they tell you, if you mess up, then I will be held responsible and Allah will deal with me accordingly. So everything is give and take. It's about quality over quantity, the proper mentoring. A brother comes in, you assign him a proper mentor, make sure his questions are being answered, he's being educated properly, the proper tarbiyah in Arabic, which in Sufism is, if you're being mentored and guided properly, then one day you'll be able to do the same for others. So now we have the Islamic lunar cycles, Masonic moonlight lodges, lodge on the moon. And you'd be surprised, in the Grand Lodge of Ohio and the Grand Lodge of California, they still have Masonic lodges that follow the moonlight cycle, as many Masonic meetings also take place past 7:30 when the moon is out. Grand Lodge of Texas even has a constituted lodge on the moon, believe it or not. So it was not common for Masonic lodges to meet at the full moon cycle. This is the origin of the tradition. In some jurisdictions, that a lunar month was the minimum time between degrees. In Islam, the lunar months are also followed for practices, holidays, observances, ceremonies, etc. There are still lodges that follow this. And the lunar cycle is a 33-year cycle. So, the number 33 pops up again. And also in Islam, whether you become a hafiz, you memorize the Quran, your Sufi degrees, or other initiatic and ceremonial experiences, the sighting of the moon in Ramadan, the sighting for the Eid holiday, everything goes by the moon, because the moon is known as one of the signs of God. So in Freemasonry, the moon is also given a huge regard. Now, my brothers, we talk about the Iquan al-Safa. And these are known as the Freemasons of Basra from the 9th century, which you can find in Mackey's Masonic Encyclopedia, number 2, page 601. Above image resembles the three lights, the sun, the moon, and the sheikh, the worshipful master. And this predates 1717 in England. So the ranks of these individuals, the first was the craftsmen, where you had to be 15 years of age. The second rank were the leaders, 30 years of age. So the third rank were the kings. You had to be 40 years of age. And then the final rank were the prophets and philosophers, which you have to be 50 and above. It's not like you join a Masonic lodge in America and you become a master Mason in 3 months. A lot of these esoteric traditions, they really made you work for it, where you couldn't be a master Mason, probably 15 to 20 years worth of studies and initiation. So the Iquan al-Safa, they taught esoteric and occult knowledge with their 52 epistles, which I recommend to all of the brothers. Make sure you look that up. Influenced Christian Rosicrucians and the Templars pre-1717. So not only did they influence Christian Rosicrucians, but also the Knights Templar, and they took that knowledge back to Europe. And that's when the Renaissance happened. If you look at the Moors that were in Italy, that were in Spain, how the Knights Templar and the Rosicrucian have Islamic influences. Even Crowley's group has Islamic influences. So it shows you they took that knowledge from the East and they took it to the West, from darkness to light. So, and that's how when the Renaissance happened in Europe and all of these people were coming to these universities in the Alhambra, being trained by the Moors, who were teaching them everything. You look at the graduation ceremonies in the Western countries; they're wearing that loose Islamic clothing, the robes, the thopes. That tradition comes from there, because when the Western people, or the European people would go to these universities of the Moors, when they had graduated, they would dress in that same manner. Now we have the three lights: the sun, the moon, and the sheikh, the worshipful master. On the left-hand side, we see a Sufi painting of the Bektashi Sufis of Turkey, where you see the sun, the moon, and the worshipful master. And on the right, we see the Masonic symbolism of the same, meaning you have the three signs of God. The eye of God is always watching you, which is equivalent of the sheikh or the worshipful master. And you have the sun and the moon, which are also there as representations of divinity, always watching you. Now we have the pledge of the tree, the acacia tree. Now in Freemasonry, the sprig of acacia is always known as the sign of immortality that the Master Mason always lives on. In the Holy Quran, Surah 48, verse 18, chapter 48, verse 18, it tells you, Allah was pleased with the believers when they were pledging allegiance with you by placing their hands in your hands under the tree. Take me as I take you. The companions, brethren of Muhammad, the widow's son, taking the oath of Rizwan under the acacia tree. This pleased God. The companions were rewarded with eternal paradise, just like how the Mason with the sprig of acacia is rewarded the same. A tree of heaven native to desert areas of the Islamic world. In Freemasonry, the acacia tree symbolized the immortality of the soul that the Master Mason will always live on. So most people think that, okay, you got one life and make the best of it. You continue to exist in one form or the other. So when this life is over, you're going to continue to exist as something else. It's a graduation school where you go from one degree to another class, to another institution. That is the life of the spirit. Once you leave the flesh, you go on to another challenge that awaits you. Now we see, if you look at the Masonic altar, you look at it, has the three pillars, the three lights, the Kaaba, the perfect ashlar stone. You look at the Masonic lodge when the brother is initiated, he's taken around in a rite of circumambulation, in a circular motion around the altar as he's initiated. In the Kaaba, it's the same exact thing. And most people do not know inside of the Kaaba, there are the three pillars and the altar. Most people never know what it looks like on the inside, but that's what it is. You have the brethren dressed in white going around in a circular motion, doing the same exact thing. So at the end of the day, if you're a Muslim or a Freemason, it's not much of a difference, honestly, because you're going through the same rites. Now we have the aspect of the magic carpet, the Islamic prayer rug, which is in the shape of the oblong square. You are the temple, and you cannot go inside the masjid unless you take off your shoes, because the ground you're walking on is holy ground. Same thing when you make your prayers on the rug. You got to take off your shoes because the ground that you're walking upon is holy ground. And if you look at the shape of the rug, it's the shape of the oblong square. You have the archway, the pillars of initiation on the left and the right. You have the Kaaba, the perfect ashlar stone, which represents that cornerstone, the house not made with hands. And that's where you pray. And if you look at the Western movies like Aladdin and all this other stuff where they're showing you the magic carpet is basically praying. If you stay in a in a state of prayer and meditation, you are on that magic carpet, which will lift you up into higher dimensions and higher realms in connection with Almighty God. So you must stay in a state of prayer and meditation. Freemasonry, the lodge cannot open unless the chaplain is there to give prayer to the glory of the grand architect of the universe, when two or three are gathered together in thy name. So it's all about brotherhood, prayer, meditation, charity, self-reflection, and finding that within yourself. It's See, most people don't get it. They get lost in the social club aspect and the fish fries. But these initiatic studies are there to teach you much more than that. Now, my brothers, we look at the Islamic and Masonic connection to America, Thomas Jefferson's Quran and other things. Now, most people think, why did Thomas Jefferson have a Quran? What was the connection with these people? You look at the bottom left. If you go to the United States Supreme Court, the highest authority in the land, and you look outside on the wall, you'll see a statue of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, holding the Quran because he was given reverence as one of the greatest lawgivers. On the bottom right, you see George Washington's letter to the Sultan of Morocco, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, because Morocco, a Muslim country and a Moorish country, was the first to recognize America post-independence. And there's also more pieces to the puzzle that you're not being taught about. The top left, you see the Kingdom of Hawaii's banner from the 15th century, 200 years before America even existed. And what do you see on the banner of the Kingdom of Hawaii? You see two dark-skinned Moors wearing the red fez, wearing the red clothes, holding the banner of the Kingdom of Hawaii. And that is why Hawaii, out of the 50 American states, is the only state that has an Islam Day holiday every September. Most people do not know that, as their last king, who was also a Moorish Sufi, represented the Islamic Shriners. And if you look at the grotto and Shriners in American Freemasonry, it all has a Sufi and Islamic influence. On the top right, you see Jamal al-Afghani, who was also a Sufi master and philosopher who taught many of your so-called Western occultists and traditionalists who unfortunately don't give credit to any of our brothers in the East for what they have imparted upon them. Now we see Masonic architecture. On the right-hand side, if those of you that are in the Philadelphia area, go take a tour of the Masonic Temple, the Grand Lodge of PA, and you'll see the Oriental Room. And this Oriental Room was influenced by the Moors in Spain. And if you look at the chair above the worshipful master in Arabic calligraphy, you'll see La ilaha illallah. There is no God but Allah. And it shows you that right there. So in a Masonic building in America, you have a room like this, which looks like a masjid. On the left, you have the King Faisal Mosque in Pakistan, which was designed by a Turkish Masonic brother named Vedat Deloke, who was also a Sufi. And if you look at the architecture, it's pretty plain and simple for those that have the initiated eyes. Now we look at the pillars of Islam. So ultimately, you have to do jihad with the self, honoring the pillars, equivalent to Tuscan, Doric, Ionic, Corinthian, and Composite. Islam, the first pillar, Shahada, the creed, you have to believe in Allah. Freemasonry, you cannot join unless you believe in a supreme being. Salat, which is prayer, you cannot begin anything in Masonry, whether you're eating food or opening the lodge, nothing, unless you invoke the prayer of the grand architect of the universe. Third pillar, Psalm, fasting, where even in Masonry, you're told to live your life in moderation and circumscribe your desires and live your life within due bounds. The fourth pillar, Hajj, pilgrimage. So the Muslim has to go to the holy city of Mecca in the east and make that pilgrimage and be a traveling man. Freemasonry, you're encouraged to do the same. Visit other jurisdictions, go to other lodges, make friends and brothers. So you're taught to be a pilgrim, a traveling man. The last pillar, zakat, which is almsgiving. Any Masonic meeting, any session, it does not close unless they have collected alms and charities from the brethren. You go to the masjid every Friday for the prayers. You'll see the brother going around with the box collecting donations. Same exact thing. And ultimately, the word jihad, meaning that you yourself are your greatest enemy and your greatest friend. So if you want to do jihad, which is holy war, you got to conquer yourself. For one who has conquered himself, there's no power on this earth that can defeat you or touch you. Now we see Saladin and Richard. Most people do not know that these two were Masonic brothers. And whenever they had a chance to help each other, even in the holy wars, they did. At the same time, representing their own individual countries and causes. We're seeing that now in the Grand Lodge of Russia and Grand Lodge of Ukraine, two forces that are at war with each other, but the brethren, whenever they have a chance to help each other, they do. You go to the American Civil War, it was the same. When they recognized each other, they spared each other's lives. You look at the world wars, it was the same. So it teaches you that Masonry, sometimes brothers could be at opposite sides of the fence, but they have to contend with each other. Just like how, if you look at the 2004 presidential election in America, Bush and Kerry were opposing each other, but at the same time, they were both brethren of the same fraternity of Skull and Bones. So that happens. So now we have, you have to die before you die, the ultimate fate, the third degree, where it tells you in the Holy Quran, Allah says, every living being shall taste death, and we shall subject you to ill and good by way of trial. And to us shall all of you be eventually be sent back, which is from chapter 21, verse 35. Tells you, well, Masonry teaches you that make the best use of your life, because one day you got to leave from here and answer for your life. Now we have the Sufis in Istanbul, 15th century, predating the founding of Masonry in 1717, where you're taught the arts and sciences and the 7 liberal arts, which is rhetoric, grammar, astronomy, geometry, arithmetic, music, logic, and all of that in between. And if you look at the Sufi representation, you see the brother with the compass and the square on the book. You see the brother studying astrology. Many of the stars have Arabic names. You look at the hourglass, which is symbolizing death. You see the books studying grammar and rhetoric, and you see the Masonic tools that are there in this Sufi painting. So see right now, thankfully, with this initiatic experience and this great initiative that brothers Tony and others who have created their own Masonic education platforms, we see that Freemasonry has existed on this earth way before 1717. So there is a narrative that kind of breaks through that to teach that, unfortunately, that a lot of Masonic teachings have been whitewashed, where only Greeks and Romans get credit. But all of this stuff has been going on in Africa, in the Middle East, or the so-called Middle East.
Right.
All of that stuff has already been going on there. Whether you look at the Sufi teachings, the African tribal wisdom, the initiatic studies over there, it's all been there since day one.
You have a couple of people asking to enter the Zoom there.
So right now we move on to Rumi. Rumi himself says that every moment I shape my destiny with a chisel. I am the carpenter of my own soul. So again, in Sufism and in Masonry, you're given the tools. But again, if you choose to not do anything, if you're not studying and if you're not doing nothing about it, you can't blame me. You can't blame Brother Tony. It's because you never had that fire within you. So you have to make the best use of the tools and know that your brothers will be there when you call upon them. But at the same time, it's your journey of self-discovery so you can become that phoenix that rises from the ashes. And I love what Brother Tony says, that I'll help you study, but I'm not your study guide. So that's the thing that we have to come down to, is look at the lessons that you were given in your degrees. And you're entered apprentice, fellow craft, master mason. You're given the tools, you're given the knowledge, you're given the information. Great. Now, what are you going to do with it? Right? You're given the 24-inch gauge. You're told that do good time management in your life, give time to your neighbor, give time to your vocations, give time to your family, God, etc. So even with that knowledge, during the application phase, if you fail to apply that equally to your life, then that's you. And you have to take that initiative and responsibility. And that's what Rumi says. I am the carpenter of my own soul.
Someone is trying to get into the Zoom there, Brother Salman.
So thank you for watching. If any questions or comments, please email me at salmansheikh911@gmail.com. All images used were retrieved from public domain searches and are the rightful property of their respective owners. The images used in this video are for the purpose of nonprofit awareness and education, which is protected by the copyright laws of fair use, education purpose. All my videos are for nonprofit and education purposes. All right reserved. And thank you. This ends my presentation. for Sufi Freemasonry Part 2. And now we go back to Brother Tony with the Q&A.
Oh man, I can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I don't really know where to start. I'm gonna be honest with you. That was a lot of information. I have other people that was trying to get into the Zoom. If you don't mind, you can allow them to come in now, and we can go
let
back.
me see. Okay. Let me see participants. Okay. Oh yeah, we have no, we had Brother Travis, but he left, so he's not there anymore.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I'm good to go. So now we do
Man,
the Q&A.
I I don't know where to start. I mean, with you bringing in a variety of different Masonic curveballs.
All right.
Is the best way I can put it, especially when you're dealing with the different aspects of Freemasonry that predates what we consider 1717. When you bring that all in perspective, it's totally different than what we are used to hearing.
Yep.
And to see that, and then even with the different verses of the Quran and dealing with the Masonic body, you know, and bringing that into play, it was a lot. I should have been taking more notes, but what I did write down was going back, speaking in regards to the Rosicrucians.
Yes.
So how is that? Because I here in Southern California and San Jose, California, they have a big, beautiful temple. And when I went into this particular temple, I seen the various degrees that they had, unlike that which is in the Masonic order.
Right.
So what I see in that regards versus what I'm getting in the Masonic order, could you elaborate on that for a minute for me?
Yeah, so in Rosicrucianism, you also have many of the initiatic degrees, and they refer to each other as freighters. Many Masons that I know are also Rosicrucianisms because they go through their own initiatic studies, and both have a Sufi influence upon them as their founder did, and the symbol of the rose. Basically, it's all symbolizing that mystical union with God, whether you're studying Sufism or Freemasonry or Rosicrucianism. Every initiatic path is teaching you the oneness of God. So if I'm in Philadelphia, if I want to go to New York City, I can take a bus, I can drive a car, I can catch a train, I can find other ways, find one highway, find I-95, find other ways. No matter what path I'm taking, it's all about that aspect of self-improvement and being united with God. And that's what all of these paths are teaching you. That's why even in Rosicrucianism, they have their own degree system. But you'll see many Masons who hold membership in that organization and vice versa. And they refer to each other as freighters instead of brothers.
That's interesting because the more I listen, the more I learn, I'm finding that in this correspondence of Freemasonry, it sponges up everything.
Yes.
The practice is so very similar no matter where you go, although many of us would choose to believe that the Western Masonic atmosphere holds the cradle of Freemasonry per se, and it doesn't.
Yes.
But as we go through this dialogue of what you just so eloquently put together, it opens up and shows you that say, hey, look, it's bigger than where you're at. And it's the same, but yet there's some varieties in it. But it's Masonry. It's about building that person to the next level. And then when you broke it down, and you said that when I think you had the different curtains, then it was a very similar to that of the Royal Arch degree.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, that's right. So when you go from raised to exalted, Brother Tony, you see that even when you become a raised Master Mason, you're only given the substitute word. And when you become exalted, that's when you're given the true word. And as the veils get removed, you're taught the holiness of God. But at each veil, there will be something to test and try you. Meaning, if you pass that test, you'll be able to proceed to the next realm and the next realm and the next realm until you realize the holiness of the Lord. That is the motto of the Royal Arch. So to know the glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have to truly be a real initiate, meaning don't have any bad thoughts, bad intent for anybody. Continue to follow that path of Masonry without any ego or any disrespect towards anybody. Just be a good and humble brother. Be a good, humble brother, like what you said. Right now, humanity is such a pivotal time for our survival, but we're still arguing about who's regular, who's recognized, whose jurisdiction is good. Come on, man. Your brothers and sisters are out here dying, being killed, being persecuted. Come together and help each other and uplift each other as brothers and sisters of the craft under the eye of Allah. That's what it's about. It's not about this human ego that tells you, oh, yo, why are you talking to him, or why are you doing this? You got to do the right thing with the time that you've been given on this earth. That's the only thing Allah cares about.
Brother Kenneth Gray, go for it. What's your question?
So my question was, is outside of being amazing how all these things fit together like pieces of a puzzle, your illustration showed, how Sufi Freemasonry predates, more of the westernized or masonry that we may follow.
Yes,
but
sir.
do you guys give credit to where you got it from, like ancient Egypt and Africa and things of that nature? Or
of course,
where do you guys feel as though it started from?
It's interesting, my brother, because you say that, because in Islam, they tell you that it's what we know as quote unquote al-Islam, the teaching system, started since the time of the Prophet Adam, peace be upon him. And Freemasonry is the same. The system is old as the dirt on this earth. It comes from the time of Adam all the way in front. And in the Surah 5 of the Holy Quran, Allah tells us that now I have perfected your religion. So we believe everything was Islam being revealed in degrees and stages, whether it was time of ancient Egypt to the ancient Mesopotamians, all the way to the Jewish tradition, to the Christian tradition, all the way up until Islam, which is considered the final revelation. So if you ask a Muslim who truly knows that knowledge, not one who's ignorant and is stuck in their own sectarian ways, the occult teachings of Islam tell you that since the time of Adam on this earth, that was Islam. Then what's the definition of Islam? Obedience to the will of God. One who submits, he's a Muslim. So whoever submits to God, by definition, he or she is a Muslim. And Allah tells you in the Quran, I have revealed your religion in stages. So since ancient Egypt all the way up until now, the Sufis would say it was all one continuation of Allah's teachings. And it tells you in Surah 2, verse 62, that no matter what path you follow, as long as you're not hurting anybody, you're doing the right thing, you're growing and learning, it's all good. Allah is not going to come down and throw you in hell, or your God or my God, or that doesn't fly. That's the human beings that messed it up, not Allah.
Right. That's why I claim non-denominational, man. Whatever you believe, I respect it.
Indeed. I hope I answered your question, my brother. And
definitely, you did.
Yeah, there's a sister, Erica. She said, I have so many questions. I'm like, well, ask the question, And I guess like myself, having multiple questions and finding at what part of the presentations to go back and really break that down and ask the question. Going back into, as Brother Gray was stating in regards to Islam and Freemasonry.
Yes.
For me, I go to church and I go to the mosque. And a lot of people they can't grab hold to it because they're like, aren't you a Christian? You're going to the mosque. I tell them, I don't have issues with the messenger at all. Be it Christ or be it Muhammad. I don't have issues. They both are telling me the same message.
Yes.
Although there may be different practices, but the message itself is the same. Now, it's what you do with the message that you receive, because a lot of us get messages or a message, and yet we don't tend to act on it. We tend to sit on it. We know what we should do, but because we are so afraid of what others may say or may think, so we don't go forward and do the right thing. And then we get upset when others are advancing or moving forward. So this is that tangible moment that we have here, to where we're able to explore and break down some of the myths and Freemasons, especially when you was talking about the Knights Templars and the Muslims and how they got along and how they really assisted and aided each other based upon the myths that we hear now. Or, well, if you're Knights of Templar, then you're a Christian. And then if you're a Shriner, you're Muslim. And they don't, but the system of Freemasonry is built to raise you up intellectually.
Yes.
You know, if you will indulge yourself in the system. But most of us, I find, don't do that because, as you said earlier, we're too bent on discrediting the next person.
Indeed.
Anybody else? Anybody else for any question? Brother King Taurus, what you got? I don't think anybody can hear me right now.
No, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go for it.
Yeah, my question is Allah and Jehovah, are they the same being?
So that's a good question, brother. So in Islam, they tell you that Allah is the only true living being in existence. And Allah is just the Arabic word for God. So in whichever way you perceive God, whether you're calling it Allah, Christ, Jehovah, that's between you and your maker. But as long as you're following that path to become closer to that light or to that source, then that's exactly what it is. Because those that fall into that argument, they go into the your God, my God fight, and that doesn't get anybody anything. So whether you want to refer to the creator as Allah, Jehovah, whatever have you, as long as you're on that path of upliftment, self-improvement, whether you're following the biblical sources or the Quranic sources. I mean, even the Hindu Gita, I read the Hindu Gita a while ago, and even their God and their Krishna says, no matter what path you follow, it all leads back to me. So all of these religions and philosophies are teaching you the same thing. So just like how Masonry says that every religious point of view and perspective, that's between that brother and the grand architect of the universe. So I hope I was able to answer your questions, my brother.
Brother Vaughn, what you got?
I don't have anything. He answered all my questions. He always does. While I'm here, you and Brother Solomon are like my virtual mentors. So I'm just happy to be here, and he just has my mind blown from the information he shared with us. Thank you.
Much love, Brother Vaughn. I'm always grateful for you. You're a true Masonic brother and friend, and I'm so happy Allah has blessed me with having you as my brother and friend. Next time I'm coming to New York, we're going to sit down and break bread together, inshallah. Thank you, my brother. I truly appreciate you. I really do.
Brother Roger Best, what you got?
My apologies. I accidentally hit the button. I actually don't have a question right now.
Okay. So what we
I got one more thing.
Oh, go for it.
So in part of one of your presentation slides, I believe you had in Sufi entered apprentice coming in at 15, then in fellow craft, I think they were somewhere around 30.
Yes.
And then master, they were like 45, 50 plus, right? So I was speaking to myself about this, and I had asked them because different jurisdictions do it different. When I first came into the Brotherhood, I was raised in a night. All right, after being in for a while, you have some jurisdictions that agree with it, some that don't agree with it. The new jurisdiction that I'm in now, because I moved from Virginia to DMV now, they do it in portions. All right, so they do first, second, and third, obviously. So I was having a conversation, and the way that they did it at that time, I think that everyone had to be proficient, and before they got to the next level, they understood exactly what it took to get to the next level, and they had no choice but to change who they were as a person because of how vigilant you had to be to make it to the next level.
Indeed.
Now the way things are done, because obviously it's a brotherhood, but it is a business. At the end of the day, everything comes down to $1, and without candidates, without brothers, you have no dues, you have no money. So how do you think we can create a system where obviously people can't go that long before being initiated, because you'll be dead before you get to Master Mason in some cases? How can we gain membership, get brothers, and still find a way for them to be fully qualified for the next level and understand what the core of Masonry is without taking that amount of time. And the reason I'm asking you is because now we're in a position where I have some candidates and we're trying to teach them, and it's hard. Everybody doesn't learn at the same pace. He may get it in 3 weeks, he may get it in 90 days, but this guy may not get it for 2 years. So how do you feel that you can qualify a person and really see what it would take without taking that amount of time from back then, but still get somewhat of the same level of proficiency?
Well, that's a wonderful question, my brother. And, right now with the way the world is changing and everything in this world is changing as we know it, whether it's education, relationships, the job system. It's not like how when you and I grew up in this country, things were just totally different. Now things are really transitioning to something else. And even the fraternity has to improvise on that aspect where the lodge needs the dues to keep the lights on. That's where the money comes in to keep the lodge running from the dues for their aprons, for their gloves, for their lights, for their internet, for their meals. The money's got to come from somewhere to keep the brotherhood going. So in this time that we're in, we need to find brothers, like in Sufism, they tell you, find brothers who are truly, truly about it. So they're not going to waste your time. You're not going to waste their time. They're truly about it. They're willing to sit down, learn the work, be proficient, know their work in catechism and the work that they need to do from EA to FC to MM and so on and so forth. So in order to be proficient, you need to be with brothers who are ready to give you that same kind of effort. And I've seen, even in regular recognized jurisdictions, people who fail to memorize the stuff, they still let them go to the next degree because they want to increase those numbers. Or they're having those one-day classes where they're raising 800 brothers in one day. So that's the concept of not teaching and educating someone. You just want to increase numbers in a business or an institution so the money's flowing in. There's no spiritual growth in that. Masonry is not a social club. It's not a fish fry event. It's not where you go and you do this stuff, but you don't learn nothing. Masonry is about that alchemical transformation from your lower nature into godhood, finding that divinity within you.
Now I'm going to interrupt your thought just for a second. When you say Freemasonry is about that inner being becoming, you said going into a godhood, right?
Yes.
Here's the catch to that. Everybody, when you say that, everyone is not on that level to accept that when they become a Mason, because they're not taught that in the beginning that this is where you're going to eventually end up. Speaking from a 33rd point of view, when I got to that level, I was never really taught, hey, you're a 33rd, blah, 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 blah. That is something I had to go back and re-educate myself about in regards to that degree level. What does it mean to be a 33rd Sovereign Grand Inspector General? And that is really the highest of the priesthood. You have the Pope, which is your most privileged Sovereign Grand Commander. Then you have the bishops and the cardinals. So as a bishop, one who has been risen to that level of a higher understanding of the totality of the Freemasons and all that is involved and it comes together, it is not that you're going to retain or remember every proficiency, but you should be able to talk about every proficiency in the various degrees for which they are formulated. So the brother that was asking, what we do here in our jurisdiction, we have a particular set of Q&A questions that this brother has to know before going. Because if you say you got to learn all of that of the EA degree, it ain't happening, especially if they got a life, they got other stuff happening. No. But if you give them, I got 40 questions for you, 40, and you got 6 months to remember these 40 questions. And we're going to tackle these at least once a week. So once a week, we're taking 1 hour of your time per day, once a week, and we're going to tackle these 40 questions. So by the time we get to the 6 months for you to move forward, those 40 should be they should be just coming. So therefore, if you pass the proficiency test, although you have to go back and reread some of the stuff, but these 40 is the foundation for the EA. And we build from there. It makes it a lot easier for us. And going back to what you were saying in regards to Freemasons and keeping the lights on, and that's great. I just honestly believe that Freemasons is going to go back to its raw self. And when I say that is to clearly say there's going to come a time, and people think I'm like you. There's going to come a time your buildings, them big, beautiful, that's going to cease to exist. And the only thing you're going to have is the understanding of Freemasonry and to know that you have a membership somewhere to give you that pass to move on and to develop that relationship. It's going to be completely different than the way we see it now. In order to, in the way the system that we're dealing with now is changing. Freemasonry is going to have to go back to its raw self in order to survive. That's just my opinion, because although we have the connections of the internet, this is beautiful. But if you really want to keep Freemasonry in its totality, it's going to have to come off the grid and go back to an ancient custom. And all of the protocol and procedures that our jurisdictions have up, that's going to have to come down, because you're going to find brothers as you travel, as you said earlier, and you're going to only have to go by certain things in order to get past or to find favor with that brother.
Yes.
And move forward. There, I just think that time is coming because of the situation at hand.
That's absolutely right.
Be privy to being a Mason. You won't be privy to being in these what we call secret society. It's going to be really become some secret shit. Excuse my language. You know, it's going to be like that, and you're gonna be like, man, do you know such and such? Man, he said he wasn't a Mason no more. Well, that's because he doesn't want you to know. Or she says she's not an Eastern Star. They just going to have to denounce it and move on and keep it real, real low key.
Yep.
I mean, that's what, and I know over in some countries, it's like that.
That's absolutely right. You know, it's because I traveled the world and I went to certain countries, and I was on the border region, Brother Tony, between India and Pakistan. There's not a human in sight, miles on end. And this random people were just coming up to me, and they showed me that they were brothers. And my mind was blown that no matter what part of the world your journey may take you to places where your cell phone might not even work, people will know you're a brother. They will approach you. They will offer you their hand of friendship to relieve you of distress, give you a place in their home, offer you a meal. So this brotherhood is going to go back to its ancient customs, where this debate that we're in of jurisdictions and who's regular, who's recognized, I mean, that's all going to dissolve, but everybody's going to be what? Brothers of the craft, true and equal under the fatherhood of God. And that time is coming. I go around, I see so many Masonic temples that have a for sale sign on it. A lot of the members, they're older, they're dying off, and the younger people, they're so busy in their own lives. I mean, right now, Brother Tony, even if you have multiple incomes in one home, that's still not enough to survive. So people are dealing with a very stressful time right now, and that's what Masonry is going to come down to. It's going to come back to that pre-1717 existence where it was there, but everyone's going to have to seek it on thine own self and to basically follow everything in its true ancient form. And I would say with the way certain things are handled in certain jurisdictions, even the regular recognized, that might be for everybody's benefit, to have that control of the certain few removed from the clutches of the craft.
I would tell you this, in my jurisdiction, and I have a couple of brothers that's on right now, we have somewhat moved toward that way, because the way we handle our initiations and everything is truly outside on a star recovery deck. The whole process, and a lot of brothers who go through it, they appreciate it more, because when they read about Masons and where they meet and all that stuff, now they can actually relate to that, and it's something tangible. It's something they can actually, that's true. This actually took place, you know. So in going back to that ancient custom of Freemasonry, that's going to be, I think it's going to be a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And you know what? There are certain places in Islamic countries, in African countries, where those teachings, those initiatic studies, it's still happening. If you go to, let's say, Algeria, which is in Africa, and they have the Al Hagar Mountains, there are certain groups living within that mountains that if you're not one of them, you're in deep trouble if you go there and they don't recognize you as one of their own, or if you fail to identify yourself as a brother of their initiation. So there are certain places in the world where this stuff really happens, and people will realize as time goes on and institutions start changing. Look at the education system in America. So many people, it's dissolving because so many people say that this is all lies, that it's all lies. They didn't tell me about the millions of Africans that were massacred by King Leopold, while they're telling me to feel sympathy for one group who was genocided and massacred. They're giving me the same repetitive information. They don't tell me about the 100 million natives that got massacred in this country, the indigenous peoples. They don't tell me about the 100 million people in India that got massacred by the British. They don't tell me about the millions of Africans that got massacred. Why aren't they teaching me any of this stuff? So even the education system is dissolving, and the workplace is dissolving. You have something called the mass resignation, where Generation Z is not tolerating abuse at workplaces anymore. So this upcoming generation, my brother, it's Masonry is gonna refine itself in a major way, and you and I both see that.
And this is why it's important for you to have a library of books. Not you. I'm not saying it's not good to have it on the USB drive and plug it in somewhere. I'm talking about something tangible you can go and pull from your shelf, pop it open, read it.
Yes.
You know, those type of books, you might as well start ordering some books and keep them close by. For real though. I mean, that's just me. I think that's just some of the things that we're gonna have to kind of look into from the way things are changing, and it's right before our very eyes. Masonry is going to change. It's going to be more online, meeting brothers from all over the world, and really switching. I mean, really in a matrix type of way. You know, this is just how I see it coming. Do anyone else have any questions? Even in the chat, if there's any questions in the chat. Let me see. Perfection.
I don't have no question, but I would like to add my 2 cents on what you were just saying, as far as, everything kind of resetting. That's just pretty much what is needed, because that's the only way that you'll get society back on track, because you're not going to get it back on track the way it is. So everything has to reset. So, and that reset brings about the cream of the crop. That's exactly what happens. It brings about the cream of the crop. So just, using our organization for an example, when we hit the reset button, oh yeah, man, you better know them signs, boy. You better know that pass. You better know that grip. You better know all that, boy, because, boy, if you don't, boy, yeah, you know what time it is. And so we're going to get, yeah. And so we're going to get rid of, that's how you get rid of all that paying, people that probably shouldn't be a certain degree, that done just paid and they this degree. That's how you get rid of all of that type of stuff.
Yeah. It's absolutely right, my brother. I agree
mass
with you.
reset button.
Agreed.
So what books, Brother Solomon, would you tell anyone to start off with?
Well, there are a few books that I would recommend, Brother Tony. One is The Mystics of Islam, which is written by Manly Palmer Hall, who is a 33rd degree brother. Manly Palmer Hall has given countless lectures and written countless books, but one of his great books, where a 33rd degree brother himself has authored a book on the mystics of Islam, which I highly recommend to everyone. The second are the secret practices of the Sufi Freemasons. And it tells you about this individual from Germany who went and studied with the Sufis in Turkey, and how he realized where certain portions of the Quran, certain prayers, meditations, incantations open up a certain portal in your life. I mean, nobody know about Crowley, and that he recited Surah Al-Ikhlas from the Quran 100 times straight, And then that's where he got the inspiration from the Book of the Law. So there are many occult teachings within Islam where if you memorize a certain portion of the surahs and if you're repeating them constantly, it's something special and occult that takes place in your life. You open up many inner gateways that if you join a Sufi lodge or a Sufi sect, whether it's the Naqshbandi or anything else that we have here in the States as well, you'll see whether it's you're seeing stuff in your dreams or you're seeing anomalies take place in your life. It's really powerful stuff. And only if it's used the right way. And just like my brother that was here, he said that this is going to separate the wheat from the chaff when the refining of Freemasonry happens. Those that are there, only the dues paying members, and you'll have those that actually know the real work and how to recognize and distinguish between an imposter and a real brother. So there is going to come that time where it's not about just wearing a Masonic ring or having a Masonic sticker on the back of your car. It's about, are you truly about it? Or are you going to be a part of that separation of the wheat and the chaff? So The Mystics of Islam is a book I recommend. The Secret Practices of the Sufi Freemasons is a book I recommend. You'll find them on Amazon. And there's another book that teaches you the aspect of Sufism, which I believe is from Hazrat Inayat Khan, that teaches you like the deeper occult aspects of Sufism as well. So you can look all of them up. They're all on Amazon. But first I would start with the Mystics of Islam from Manly P. Hall. That will get you started on the right track.
Go for it, Brother Vaughn.
He has a book also. He has a book that he wrote. He's being humble right now, but he has a very good.
Look, you can't come on here and have a book and not say you have a book. This is not that program. You have to say, this is what I have, and I think it'll be a good read for your library. And tell
That's
us
part of using that
that.
cable tow. That's part of using that cable tow, brother. What's the book?
Yes, my brother. So I also have published a book in, I believe I did it in fall of 2020, which is the Spiritual Reflections of the Sufi Freemason, Volume 1, which is available also on Amazon in paperback and Kindle format. And alhamdulillah, all praises due to Allah at all the kindness and love that I have received. And I'm grateful for that. So my book is out there too, The Spiritual Reflections of the Sufi Freemason. Yes, I will. Let me put that in the chat for you right now. And also, Brother Tony, I wanted your permission when you have this uploaded on YouTube, if I could share this on my channel as well.
Go ahead.
And also, I want to give you my permission that anything on my YouTube channel that you believe that the brethren can benefit from,
right?
You don't have to ask me, just download it and upload it right to the channel.
Okay.
Okay, let me put that for you now.
Continue.
All right. So yeah, definitely just keep up all in your studies, try to do the right thing, and all the stuff that I have imparted in this presentation to show you the parallel comparisons between Islam, Sufism, and Freemasonry. You'll know that you'll find that in other traditions as well. You'll have certain, jurisdictions, even in Masonry, that just focus on the Bible alone. But know that no matter what tradition you're following, whether it's Moorish science, 5%ers, ancient Kemet, Sufism, Hinduism, Buddhism, I found the truth of Masonry, my brothers, in everything. So don't just tell you, because Freemasonry is not a Christian organization also, nor is America a Christian country. So don't let those limitations, I know many of my Prince Hall brothers have expressed that frustration with me. Those that are Muslims, they say, sometimes I feel kind of left out because this is a fraternity that teaches you to be one with everyone. It's not a church service. So that's what we have to get back to when that refining takes place. It's going to be about everyone. And it's not just to have a bias for Islam or Sufism. Truth, my brothers, I found it everywhere. And when I came to this country, when I was 5 years old, I went to Bible classes and Quran classes on the same day, just like how Brother Tony goes to the church and goes to the masjid. Everyone's teaching you the truth in their own way. Love your neighbor as you love thyself. Love God. Try to do the right thing. Charities, teaching people the scripture, the word, helping the homeless, trying to do the good deeds. Everyone is trying to follow God in their own way. So whether I get in a Ford, whether I get in a Toyota, whether I get in a Honda, it's still serving the same purpose. It's getting me from point A to point B as to drive. So it's the same exact thing. Find what works for you. If it's helping you become a better person, it's increasing your light, your knowledge, you're not hurting anybody, then follow the path that works for you. Every one of them got truth. But as long as it's helping you, that's the main thing, because it's your path and it's yours to walk alone, just like many good and worthy fellows before you. Even in Masonry, you're given the tools, you're given the knowledge, but how you choose to handle that, that's going to be on you. So just any initiatic path you come in your life, just enjoy it, embrace it, learn from it, and apply that to your life and see where it gets you. Because you'll know in your heart what's right and what's wrong for you. That's the beauty of the human heart. You'll have that instinct. You have the gut instinct, and then you also have the instinct of the heart. And Noble Drew Ali said, where is Allah? Allah is in your heart. Trust your heart always, and you'll never go wrong with any decisions you got to make in your life.
One brother just posted, Sufi Masonry is nothing but practical magic, bro, using numbers and astrology. I'm like, come on now. I mean, cyber security. I mean, unless you've gone through those rites on that side of the compass and square, I can't talk on that. Now, unless he knows something that I don't know, and cybersecurity has done his due diligence, he's studied, he's broken it down, he's been initiated on that side. I don't know. I mean, people, I want to ask him, cybersecurity, have you been initiated a Sufi Mason? Have you studied that side of Freemasonry? Because I'm listening to Brother Salman here, and this guy has been there. He's there. So
see, Brother Tony, that's the thing. People condemn and fear things that they do not understand. So what in Freemasonry, they'll believe everyone and everything except a Freemason. So if you need a medical opinion, what do? You go ask a doctor. You need something that's an educational opinion, you go ask a teacher or a professor. With Freemasonry, you'll ask anybody but a Freemason in terms of what is Freemasonry about. Same thing with people who don't know about Islam or Sufism. Some people walk by the masjid and be like, yo, what are these people doing inside? They're probably up to no good. You go inside and you see it's the same thing that happens in a church. People are praying to God, trying to do the right thing. So that's the human ignorance that's going to be separating the wheat and the chaff when the time comes and that refinement comes. So, my love and respect to that, brother. But what I gave you in this presentation, it's all here.
He said, well, let's talk about the number 19. I mean, we can always talk about a variety of different numbers, which really means a whole lot to a whole lot of people in their spiritual walk. You could talk about the number 7 or the number 8 or any other odd numbers. You could talk about 91 if you want to go there, but the numbers is great. I want the knowledge that's going to be inclusive of all of that,
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
I mean, that's just me.
Moving on.
Okay, so the brother said, could you explain why, as a Sufi, you avoid the shrine? I have heard you speak on that before.
Oh, of course, and I'll answer your question. See, with what you know as the shrine is, how do you say? That's the westernized or the watered down version of Islam. And in Surah 5 of the Holy Quran, Allah tells you, do not take for friends those individuals that make your religion into a sport. So, and that's why in Sufism, you're allowed to become a Freemason and all that, but only the Blue Lodge, Craft Masonry, Mark Master Masons, Royal Arch, Scottish Rite, all that stuff. See all that other stuff that they have here, like tall cedars and shrines and grottos and all this stuff. If you travel the world, and I travel the world, they only recognize you if you're a Master Mason or you're a Royal Archmason. You complete that ancient Masonic initiatic experience. As long as you're a craft Mason and a Royal Archmason, they don't care about all that other stuff, because that's all American. That's only here for the American people. So the shrine is basically, I mean, look at them. They're wearing the fez. They're saying assalamu alaikum to each other. They're drinking. They're doing all of this stuff.
And that's the thing we try to tell brothers who become Shriners. This is not what you would consider a playhouse. This is not a drunken cause. This is not that journey. This journey, I'm only speaking in regards to my jurisdiction.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so once you become a Knights Templar in a 30-second Sublime Prince, and you make that journey into Shrinedom, the Knights Templars and the Shriners, what we try to show is how they work together.
So you're handling it the right way, while these other places are treating the subject of Islam as a playhouse. And the Quran tells us, do not take for friends those who are taking your religion as a sport. So
Absolutely.
See, it's funny.
that's it.
It's funny. It's funny you say that, because my family is from Guyana, and my uncle is a Mason. He's in Guyana, and I spoke to him earlier. And the way they handle Masonry in other countries is completely different than how we handle it in America.
Indeed.
Completely different. And that doesn't mean us over here don't hold it true, because there's a lot of brothers like on this Zoom now, we hold it true. You know, we know what it's supposed to represent. We handle it the right way. We take time,
Yes,
and
sir.
we put it underneath our God, our family, and then it's that. But
Yes, sir.
the way I see it happening in America compared to the way I was trained and raised under, some of my West Indian family, I can tell there's a major difference. It's a major difference in the way it's appreciated.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And that's what I've seen in my journey as well, is I've spoken to many brothers from African jurisdictions, from India, from other places, and they tell us that as long as, my brother, you're a master mason of craft masonry, which is Blue Lodge or a chapter, then that's pretty much it. There is no higher or lower. Of course, you have 32nd, 33rd, and all the other initiatic rites, but for them, that's what it represents. And I have seen that personally when I travel to other countries. So the aspect of what they have here is totally different. It's way different. And that's exactly what it is. As long as you're a brother of the craft, you're on the level. You're a sister of the Order of the Eastern Star. We're all together on this journey. Nobody's above you or beneath you. That's what it means to be on the level, that we're all walking each other home in this short human life, and we owe that love and light to one another. The way things are going right now for our communities and so many communities, who has any guarantee that we're going to live to see another day? So make the best of the time that's been given to you. Uplift yourself, uplift your families, uplift your communities. You got to give somebody a call and apologize to them. Be a better human being and do that. It's not always about you at the end. And that's what Masonry teaches us too.
What I want to add is, you spoke about Alex, what's his name?
Crowley.
Crowley.
Yes.
I want to come back and visit him on a separate show.
Yes.
All about him. And then what I would like to do with you, if you don't mind, come back again, and then we're going to talk about Baphomet.
Sure. Why not?
I mean, I want to line them up like once a week, because I don't want to do a show and then have you on. I want to be able to let that be the main show, because what I'm looking at is that you threw out some stuff that we didn't go into details, like the Baphomet and Alex Crowley. I think those are controversial, but what a lot of people don't know, they can't. When you think of Alex, boy, they really think this guy's like off the chain. They look at it like, what? And I have a couple of his books, and when I read it, I'm telling you, I was like, I don't know if I want to be a Mason. But I had to come with an open mind, which gave me a better understanding of what he was putting on paper. So it's there. I mean, he wrote a book called the Keys of Solomon. That book right there, it was a spooky read. I'm not gonna lie, it was a read that I was like, I don't know if I want to share it with anybody. You know, he spoke about demons being summons and building the King Solomon's temple with the ring, and how they named the demons by name and the power of the ring, and you know, I mean, it was a lot of play in there. It just made me think about Lord of the Rings and how powerful that ring was in what it was doing and how people was fighting for it. You know, so
you know, Brother Tony, if you go to certain West African countries like Senegal and Nigeria and other places, some of those Sufi masters that are there, like, you really got to know people to be able to have access to them. Those are the same people that have access to Prophet Suleiman or King Solomon, peace be upon him, the wisdom of keeping those demons and jinns boxed up in the ring. And some of those sheikhs, like, they're the real deal. But you really got to know people on the inside in those Sufi orders, especially the African Sufi orders. Those they're off the chain. Those sheikhs are of another existence in totality. I've heard some stories.
and that's what I'm saying. So when people ask about these books, there's some books I don't put out because I just don't. I think you should find them on your own.
Yeah.
And indulge yourself. And some books I put out because it's a good read, but some good reads are not for everyone. So I'm limited in what I would tell people to go and read because I don't want someone to go and drink hot coffee where they're not ready for it. I prefer to give you some lukewarm water and let you work up to the coffee per se.
Yes,
so
yes.
That's just my way of introducing people to some books that I have that may be pretty controversial for them in their walk.
Of course.
Let's see what we have. Everyone in Masonry knows that the Helen sign, but what I'm saying in most of it is modern day Masonry not assist you. Well, I would say this: in my journey as a Mason, man, I've received assistance from people I didn't think I would receive assistance from, finding out later that they were Masons. And they knew I was a Mason already. So that whole myth in regards to what people would and wouldn't do for you, if people know that you are sincere about the work that you do and who you are, they will definitely assist and aid you. I mean, I'm not going to tell you, I'll leave that where it's at, but I'm talking about across the board. If you ever found yourself in situations, circumstances, and you just so happens, this is all I got, and do it, brother, I'm just saying.
I've seen that. You're absolutely right. You know, it's crazy, Brother Tony, is that one time where I was in the India-Pakistan border region, and this old man came out of nowhere and he offered me his help. I went to London first time in September of 2019. I got out, I got drenched in the rain because I didn't know it rained there all the time. My clothes got drenched, my luggage got drenched. This British gentleman out of nowhere comes with his car. He puts my stuff in his car and he said, "Where you're staying at?" I said, "I'm staying at this place." He took me right to the doorstep and brought my luggage to the door. And I said, "Sir, is there anything I could do to repay your kindness?" And he just looked at me with that smile and he said, "Don't be silly. Enjoy your time." I'm like, you know what? Those who know, they know. And you gotta experience it. You cannot explain this feeling to anybody.
Absolutely you can. And a lot of people won't have what's the correct language? A lot of people won't experience it because they're so close-minded to it.
Yes, sir.
So you won't be able to recognize the signs or the symbols, or when someone shakes your hand or greets you, you won't be able to recognize it because you're so close-minded. I try to pay attention to movements, and I try to pay attention to people, the way they approach me, you know, the whole thing. You know, you should always be cautious. And in being cautious, then you find that brother or that sister in being cautious.
Yep.
You know, you really do.
It's absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Let's see. Before we get ready to go, it just depends on what's in the lodge. Okay. I'm just seeing if there was anything else in the chat. I don't really see anything else right offhand. But I do want to say thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you. Thank you for reaching out to me as we was trying to make this happen. And are you
Yes,
still on
my
vacation
brother.
right now?
I'm still on vacation, but I still made time for my brother.
Well, I appreciate that. I certainly appreciate that. And for those of you who are not able to join us on the Zoom, we're going to be doing this again. It's up to you when you want to do it. You just let me know.
Probably because the rest of June is going to be busy for me. So rest of May and June is going to be busy for me. Inshallah, God willing, I'll link up with you and we'll probably plan some date in July, and then I could come back for my third appearance.
Okay, well, I'm gonna move on in the month of June and do something and look for you in July.
Yeah, definitely, most
Yeah,
definitely.
we'll make that happen.
Yes,
So
sir.
I want to say to those who are watching on the Zoom, the live Zoom, I want to say thank you for coming on. I appreciate you. Let me close this out real quick. Boom. I appreciate each of you coming on and joining us. Hopefully you've gotten something out of this. This is just one of them times and points to where I believe that we all can benefit from it. You're still the host, right?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. You want to turn that back over to me, and then we're gonna go ahead and log off for the day.
All right. Let me
Brother Vaughn, you got something you want to say?
there it is. You should have it now.
Just thank you. That's all I have to say. Just thank you.
All right.
Peace and blessings, my brother. Much
Brother
brother.
Kenneth, before we
Y'all
go,
be
is there
safe.
a last word for you?
Y'all be safe, brother. That's all. Y'all be safe.
All
Be
right,
safe,
King
brothers.
Taurus,
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
you're good. All right, then. I want to once again say thank you to each of you who have come on, and to classmate. Okay, and to everyone who was watching on the YouTube live. Thank you. We appreciate you. Please hit the thumbs up button. We're going to come back and revisit this. I think our next two shows are going to be in July with Brother Salman as soon as his schedule allows it. And we're going to be talking about the Baphomet and Alex, what's his last name again?
Crowley.
Crowley. Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And till we meet each other and greet each other on the next level, I want to send blessings to you. And brothers, I really, really appreciate you.
Peace and blessings to everyone. Good night and assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you and your families. And please, in these times, just look after each other and love each other and protect each other and uphold each other, because we're living in difficult times, but let's just keep going, one foot in front of the other.
Walaikum salam. And remember this, as always, not your study guide. I'm just here to help you study. Keep your light on and stay